Very excited to talk to both of you. This is a fun movie. I gotta say, watching all the films, and the way that they've grown, as well as the action and the things you've taken too. Can you tell me a little bit about why Red Right Hand just felt like the next right movie for you guys?
I think it started number one with the script. Jonathan Easley's script really grabbed us, reeled us in. It was a page turner. The characters leapt off the page. And then honestly, like we were intrigued by the world.
And then the second part of that is that we read the script, we loved the script, loved the characters. And then we'd actually met Orlando a few years previously after one of our films. He enjoyed it. We sat down with him. We started talking about projects that he might be interested in, projects we were talking about doing. And we always had him in the back of our heads of like, okay, we want to work with this guy. This would be awesome. And when this project came through, we were like, man, what would make this really exciting for us if we could get Orlando to do this role?
So something, a flavor you haven't ever seen him do before.
Right, right. Well, you guys, of course, Fat Man with Mel Gibson and some other great actors previously too. I mean, you guys have a lot of great actors who know what they're doing. So what was your main idea when it came to directing someone like Orlando?
I mean, honestly, to cut him loose and get as much out of him as we could, right? I mean, he brings a lot to the table. So that was one of the things when we met him in that meeting. There were a couple of facets of the guy that we'd never seen before on screen. We were really familiar with his work, but we'd never seen him quite like this before. And we thought we knew he could do it. We knew he could do it. And it's just his appetite, right? Did he have the appetite to do something like this? And the wonderful thing about the guy is, man, he just gave us 125%. He spent months on that dialect. He spent weeks building his outward appearance.
Yeah, he got his hair. He got his costume right. I remember he even hit the physicality he wanted to change, right? He said that needs to be a very capable man.
Yeah, and even the boots he was wearing, he picked those out with Brittany, our costume designer, and it just really informed how his character moved and sort of strutted around. It was an awesome process to watch.
Well, I mean, right from the beginning, we kind of see who he is, his physicality, and you could definitely tell there was kind of a tone he was setting from the beginning, too, with his character. What was your main thought about Cash himself? Because Cash can be, he could go down a lot of different roads, but when it comes to someone like that, it's always that guy who's like, done some things and now he's here, So what was your main thought when it came to Cash and how you wanted to kind of like bring him out?
Absolutely. I mean, look, for us, Cash is on a path to redemption, right? This is a man who's had a checkered past. He's been in the life, he's gotten out of the life, and now the life's coming back for him.
And then ultimately, obviously, it turns into a bit of a revenge tale, or a man on a path to revenge. And then, we absolutely wanted to finish the film with a sense of hope. There's nothing worse than going 2 hours with your characters and then feeling like you were dropped off of a cliff at the end of the movie. We love the idea of redemption. We love the idea of hope. Of course, it's a dark tale, so we love the idea of revenge as well.
Right. Well, the other thing I have to say is one of the big fun things for me about this was Andie Macdowell. Having her as Big Cat was just awesome. And I was trying to think, has Andie Macdowell ever done like some gunplay movies before? I'm sure she has, but I can't remember where I've seen her pick up an AR or run around with a gun. So, I mean, was that something fun for her? Like, what did she, like, how did she sign on?
The only thing I've ever seen her in, and I'm pretty familiar with her films, the only thing I've ever seen her in where she has a gun is there's a Bill Pullman noir from the 90s where she has a gun and she's holding Bill Pullman sort of hostage, and they had a previous relationship, and she just gives him a little speech, and then I think she shoots
a chair.
She shoots like something off to the side, or maybe she never fires. It's one of those types of very noir moments where she fires one shot or doesn't fire at all.
Yeah,
and it's more about the talk between the two characters. But that's the only time. And that was a lot of fun working with her with these weapons. She was gun ho.
I mean, I think for us, look, I mean, I'm going to take the rap on this one. Like she came up early in our ideas for Big Cat, but I was like, man, we've never seen her do this before. Like, I think we're just spinning our wheels waiting for a no. And then, out of left field, it comes in that she's like intrigued with the part, wants to do it, wants to chat. And man, when we sat down with her via Zoom, of course, in today's time, we were sitting there and she's like, wearing these leather pants. She's got a little bit of that Big Cat edge. And man, she was like, I got this in me, boys. Just ask my kids.
Well, and I think that she's been through a lot of stuff. Of course, the romance stuff, the comedy things too. So I was kind of happy to see this part of her too. And then you add a little southern twang to it, and I think it's definitely in her wheelhouse for sure. One other one that I was really excited for was Garrett Dillahunt, who, if anyone knows and watches Raising Hope, you know that this man can give you dirtbag with a heart of gold like that. So it's just one of those things he can do. How did he come into this? Because he's one of my favorite actors.
He's one of our favorite actors as well. We're big fans of his. In our minds, he's on that pedestal with like it goes Garrett Dillahunt, Sam Rockwell, Walton Goggins. Those are some of our favorite actors on the planet. And he was not only so damn talented, he was such a wonderful person to work with as well. So he lives up to the hype and the excitement of us wanting to work with him. But he came in, he was cast right after Andie. We had Orlando and Andie, and we needed our Wilder. And he was top of our list, man. We love his work. And we're so excited for him to want to do it, honestly.
Yeah. And what we love about Garrett is like, look, there's an edge to him as well, right? You don't know what side of the fence he's going to fall on. So that's great for the character Wilder for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the question too, because he did have that past, and you never know if someone's just going to cross back over. It could be a hopscotch back and forth between the two. But he definitely brought some heart into it, and I really did enjoy him. One more that I really want to talk about too was Chapel Oaks, who, if anyone watched like Will Trent recently on ABC, she was amazing on that too. But can you tell us a little bit about how she came into this?
I'd love to hear that. I haven't seen that yet, but
oh yeah, she plays a young girl who was a victim of sexual abuse by an older man. It weaves into a story, and she goes for it. She full tears and everything, which we saw a lot of her emotion in this as well, as long as her purview into action too. So, but she's so great in it. So, what made you add her on as your Savannah?
Yeah,
it was a huge. We did two things. Obviously, we went out to the agencies and got some very talented names coming after that role. And then we also kind of went pretty wide because Esh and I wanted to make sure that we, sort of rattled every bush for this role. We wanted to see everybody we could for this role. It was a really important role as a young girl, and we were trying to really nail it. We wanted to make sure we had the right person. And she just sort of clawed her way to the top just because of how damn good she was. We did a couple of Zoom auditions with her. She's wonderful. She sent in a tape. And then it was our last audition with her. It was down to like three or four actors for that role. And we asked her to give us a very emotional reading of one of the more intense scenes. And on a Zoom call with like a gray backdrop, and we're staring at her. It's not easy to do an audition like that. And she just knocked it out of the park. And it really just came down to how talented she was.
It's interesting because this is the first real, like, she hadn't done any other work before Red Right Hand. This was the first piece that she had done. So it's interesting that some of those other films and pieces have come out first, but this was actually the first feature film.
Well, this apparently was her break in, because she, like I said, she did great in Will Trent. I was wondering what came first, but I can definitely see this being the start to that, and then kind of opening the floodgates for her. So lots of great stuff to come from her. The next thing I do want to, oh, for sure. I do want to ask though, the look of this film, Johnny Derango just is getting better and better. He just is, man. He's getting so good when it comes to this stuff. And then of course he's even got, past this, he's working with Mel Gibson on another project too. So that's awesome. But can you talk about, the conversation with him and how you guys wanted to make this look? Because I feel like the camera is always moving, kind of always giving us emotion, right? And so what was your idea and conversation with him about how you wanted to shoot this?
Yeah, I mean, for this one, we really wanted it to feel a little more naturalistic, a little more organic than some of our past films. We wanted that energy and intimacy of a little bit more handheld aesthetic in some of the more family-centric scenes. We came up with degrees of handheld, right? So we have everything from like a Steadicam, which, it's a Steadicam, but to more traditional, like slung over the shoulder handheld. And then there's a easy rig in the middle of that. So we had varying degrees depending on how much shake or movement we wanted in the camera. And then we were also just wanted to do like those harsh juxtapositions with those big sweeping drone shots,
Yeah, trying to balance the personal We wanted to use the handheld a lot for the family and a lot of the more personal or visceral moments, and then we wanted to be a lot more cinematic and go back to our. I mean, we're big like Michael Mann fans. You know, we love Heat, and we love in action sequences giving you the geography, letting you know, making sure you know where it's at. It helps, helps add tension to those action sequences and lets you understand what the geography is to those.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating for us than like a cacophony of cuts for an action sequence. And you're like,
Right.
man, I have no idea where anybody's at, but bodies are dropping, and there we go.
Right.
Well, I was gonna go into that too, because there is a kind of two veins in this film too, because your action is set a little bit differently and shot differently. I felt in some ways where I don't know if it's just having to pre-plan your action correctly, but it feels a little bit differently, especially even in the way you cut it as well.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit, obviously an intimate handheld scene between two characters in a house is going to it has a little bit more organic, a little bit more texture in the photography. I think when you're in an action sequence, sometimes you want that shaky, Saving Private Ryan cam or the Paul Greengrass stuff going on. But for us, we kind of like a little bit more steady approach so that you're not getting too convoluted with, a bunch of busy camera work and you've got action coming at you. There's got to be a nice complement for us.
Right. Well, we've seen, in previous films, blood work too, but I feel like there's more blood in this film than maybe your previous ones as well. Although we had some magical type blood in Fat Man, so I don't know if there's, there was a lot of that, but I think a lot of it was just coming from Mel Gibson himself, probably. But talk about the blood work and how you wanted to kind of have this be a little more visceral, really, No
doubt. Ian and I are huge lovers of practical effects. We feel like that absolutely gives a color and a texture to actors and the scenes. I think an audience can feel it too when they feel that recoil of the guns going through the actor's performance.
Yeah, I mean the practical effects for us are next to holy as far as like getting a real feel for it. I mean, I think everybody's watched a movie before where you have a lot of main digital effects and it feels a little off. And I think that for us, a lot of that comes from just the actors not being in that environment and feeling those textures of, like he's saying, the gun actually going off or seeing the actual blood or being right next to the actor as your it makes your blood curdle. It makes your the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and that's you get those effects, you get those shots, you get those reactions. It adds to the performance.
I will say that set piece at the end, the owners were lovely people. But, they raised some eyebrows when people were going through the windows and walls were exploding, things like that. Fortunately, we took good care of their house and put all the facades up.
Can you guys just play in the backyard? You don't have to come in the house, dude. That's one of those things. Eshom, I know you do still a lot of storyboarding too, and I kind of see some of the ways maybe that would have worked out. Did you storyboard a lot for this one? How did you kind of put this together in your mind?
Absolutely, man. No, Ian and I's process is 100% storyboard, everything nose to tail. It's a starting place for us. It gets us off the gate and out of the blocks. That doesn't mean it's bullet. It's like ironclad, right? That's malleable. Right. We also had a wonderful stunt coordinator on this, who helped us put together a lot of those scenes, especially, some of the more hand-to-hand stuff. It was a wonderful collaboration, nose to tail, man. But us, our process is to storyboard everything and be prepared.
Right. One of the things that I did enjoy too was kind of the speed of how you kind of moved around with the vehicles too. Maybe that was your Michael Mann as well, kind of following the vehicles along as their own characters too. What was the one scene that you felt? I always like to ask directors, like, when you kind of put stuff together and you plan things, whether it's action, whether it's just a quiet scene too, what was the one scene for each of you where you're like, we got a movie? Like, it's that one scene where you're like, I was worried about this, what's happening? Oh my God, this actor delivered. Like, we got a movie, cut tape, put it, bring it to the theater kind of thing.
Yeah, I can go first. So it's probably, there's two scenes and it involves the same two players. It's Orlando and Andie. And I felt like when they first met, there's a scene in a den when they first meet and they were really crackling and the whole crew felt it. And then there's another scene where I don't want to ruin anything, but it's a pretty dark moment in the movie about the middle point. And they have a bit of a face off again. And again, they're just crackling. And for me, those, you got your heavy and you got your protagonist. And if those two are playing that well off of each other and there's that much chemistry between them, and you can feel that many layers in those scenes of their past together, you've got something cooking.
Yeah. I think for me, look, it happens early on in the picture, right? We get Scott Hayes, we get Chapel, we get Orlando all in a scene together. And that's critical, right? That scene where he comes in the house in the morning and meet everybody. You've got to buy that. You've got to buy that family dynamic. You got to feel it. And we did, we were excited. Because if you don't have the investment in the family, none of the stuff that comes after that with any of the action matters, right?
Right, 100%. Well, before I let you go, I do have to get you to do the commensurate. Give me the plug, the sale. What would you tell a friend about this film? Like, how would you explain this story and this film best?
I'd say this is a movie about a family, because I mean, the first thing you want to invest in is the family, right? Like Esh was saying. So I'd say it's about a family that's sort of being dragged into a really dark place. Cash, our main character, is hell-bent on trying to get his family living straight and back on the straight and narrow. And he's got to go through hell and fight his way through
Probably gauntlet of
yeah,
Big Cat.
It's a hell of a dark place we go to in that second act, but it's a lot of fun. It's really entertaining, and we finish the film on a note of hope. And I think you can end with at least a positive way out of the movie.
For sure. Well, always great talking to you both. Looking forward to Red Right Hand, and looking forward to everyone getting a chance to see this. Once you see Orlando doing good, like when he delivers something amazing, you're like, I miss Orlando. I need to, why aren't I watching more of Orlando Bloom kind of thing too? Same thing with Garrett as well though too. So congratulations again, and we'll look forward to promoting this film.
Thank you, Garrett. Much love, brother.